right. Ooh, my heart is pounding. Hey guys, Janelli here. Welcome back to my channel here at the Fashion Lotus. So today is a very difficult subject. So I'm giving you all a trigger warning. Yeah, so just in case it does talk about sensitive subject matters with fertility and pregnancy. So fair warning. Okay, so I guess we're gonna talk about my road to pregnancy, my journey. It's not been an easy one. So for 2 years almost, my husband and I have been trying to get pregnant. So we started in September of 2018, just around the time that we went to visit Cuba on one of our vacation trips. So yeah, this is hard. Okay, I'll try to keep it together, I promise. So we started trying to have a baby the natural way, and one of the things that my OBGYN discovered was that I had a polyp. So I think it was in the spring of 2019 that we said, yeah, then let's just go in and remove the polyp. Though the polyp isn't a huge factor necessarily. So the polyp was located in the uterus, but the doctor said that it wasn't a huge factor in fertility necessarily, but it can make it difficult depending on exactly where it's located, because it's interrupting the passage of the sperm to go in and do its thing, right? So we decided, okay, we're gonna go get it removed. So in June of 2019, I went under surgery to get the polyp removed. And in the process, the doctor discovered that it wasn't one polyp, it was actually 6. So that's a lot. So I was like, okay, no wonder I couldn't get pregnant. So let's go ahead and get that all removed. And so it worked out. And she said to give it 6 months continuously trying, but about 6 months until it was possible for me to get pregnant. And that was December of 2019. So, came December and nothing had happened yet. So I started, worrying a little bit. And doing my research, trying to see what options one would have, started asking questions to other friends of mine that had been going through fertility issues, and they reached out to a clinic, and it's actually pretty close to my house. So I started doing the investigation and trying to make appointments to see. Usually they start testing the man just to see, because it's the less invasive testing or even treatment, if you would. So we talked about it. We decided, that we would go for it, but we didn't actually start doing any testing. Like, we kind of said, well, what if it just happens naturally? And I still kind of had that hope. And of course, we all know in March the whole COVID-19 closures began, and so staying home, staying safe, went into place in Texas in March, I'm gonna say March 16. So we're like, all right then, we're not gonna try to get pregnant during a pandemic. Right now, we don't know what the future holds. We don't know what hospitals are gonna be like. We don't wanna be exposing ourselves, and if I were to become pregnant, what that's gonna look like in the next 9 months. So we just didn't really think much of it. But literally 2 weeks after the shutdown and my husband was sent home, so within 2 weeks I actually got pregnant. I found out I think when I was 3 weeks pregnant. That was pretty quick. I was late one day, and I knew, because I am so regular that I get my period sometimes a day before whatever's in my calendar, and I get signs like a pimple, irritability, and things like that. But this time I had nothing, and I was looking at my calendar. I'm like, okay, so I'm supposed to get my period on this day, And literally the next day I hadn't gotten my period, I knew. I just knew. Something inside me just told me, you're pregnant. So I told my husband, I'm like, I'm late a day. He's like, literally a day. I'm like, yes, that's something. So middle of the pandemic, we didn't want to leave the house at that time. It was very unsure, everything that was going on. The procedures weren't in place. The cases were continuously rising as they are currently right now. But at that time, there was so much less information that even going to CVS, even if we were masked up, we didn't know anything. So I decided to order some pregnancy tests through Amazon. I got it literally the next day. So on a Sunday, I missed my period. Monday, I still hadn't gotten anything. So I got the test and I took it and it was positive. So we were so excited. We were really, really happy. And so I found out probably a week before my birthday in April. So mid-April, kind of end of April. So my husband was really adamant about not telling anybody. Like, oh no, we have to wait the full 3 months, even if, even if we're deciding to tell our parents, we're not gonna tell our family until we're sure. And I'm like, well, I'm sure I'm pregnant. And so obviously, I went to my first appointment and the doctor had said everything looked good, that I was perfectly healthy, that I was able to continue my exercise, of course, cutting out all of the things that are forbidden when you're pregnant, obviously alcohol, there was sushi, what else? I can't even remember right now because I'm not even thinking about all that. But, I went full into it. And so I made the decision to tell my parents. And so by the time it was my birthday, I was 5 to 6 weeks. So I told my parents in a Zoom call that we had planned for my birthday, and I was so excited. And so my husband got a little upset that I had told my parents because he didn't want to tell his family yet. So I thought that he was being really negative, but I know he was being more protective of me and my feelings. So I understand that. But at the time I was just so excited that that I was mad at him. I'm like, no, don't be so negative. You got to bring the positive vibes. And I'm really about, bringing into your life, like what you're like. So anyway, he decided finally to tell his brother. I think it was like a day later. Or the day of his birthday. His birthday is a week after mine. So I wanted to make it special. It's like a gift to your parents. They're your parents. Celebrate your birthday because it's the day that they were able to see what they produced and brought to life, and so the miracle of birth and the whole thing. So it's so poetic, and I'm a total romantic. It's so poetic to tell your parents you're gonna be a grandpa on the day of your birthday. So it was really exciting for me to do it that way. So he decided to tell his mom and his brother, and so like just the immediate family. I also told my 3 best friends, and I told my 2 closest friends here in San Antonio, that my coworkers as well. So, it was a very close-knit group. The reason why I decided to tell people at week 5, 6, when it's still so early and anything can happen, was because of if I have anything happen, then I would have a support system. So, I tried to explain that to him. That was important to me. Because just him and I, dealing with it, I don't think would have been enough. So at the time, I thought it was a great idea to tell them because they would celebrate with me and they would also support me if anything were to happen. So that was my thought process. But I don't like to come into things that make me happy thinking that the worst is going to happen. And he's more of a realist, he says, and I say he's negative, but he says he's a realist by protecting and keeping things very close to yourself. And so if anything happens, then we will deal with it. We're very different in that sense. I need a support system. So anyway, by week 6 or 7, and I'm a little confused with the timeline. The OBGYN always gave me a week, it was always a week later than what I had thought of the conception date was. So it was a little bit of a discrepancy with the timeline, but they say that they count it from the day that you missed your final period, and I was counting it from the day of conception. So it was literally a week after. So anyway, the point is that by week 6 or 7, I'd gone to my first sonogram, and at that moment they measured it, and but she said that at that point there should be a blood flow going through the uterus to the ovum and to the embryo. At that point it was an embryo, and there wasn't. But she said we could be off by a week, so let's wait another week or 2 to see what's going on. And she had a suspicion that it wasn't gonna happen, that it wasn't a successful pregnancy. But positive me, I'm like, no, I'm super sure about my timeline, and you're off by a week and you're too early. So it's gonna be okay. And so I have a very strong faith and Buddhist practice. So I pray every single day because I know this is a happy, healthy pregnancy. We're gonna see it to term and everything's gonna be okay. But, and some of my friends were a little annoyed with the doctor because, oh my gosh, she's so blunt, and now she's giving you 2 weeks worth of stress that you don't need. And the other friend would argue saying that no, she needs to be straight and upfront with you, because if it is what it is, then she wouldn't have given you the hope. So there's different schools of thought with that. I think she has excellent bedside manner. She is a wonderful doctor. I absolutely love her. I followed her through different clinics, so I trust her. So anyway, 2 weeks later, I went to so she gave me the option to go through a procedure, which is the DNC, or to take a pill. And so I did a little bit of research and found that the DNC is a lot more traumatic for the womb and for the uterus. So the recovery process, the healing is a little bit, it takes more time. But the pill, which is intravaginal, is more painful. Like the process is pretty painful, and it could be traumatic because you're not under. So I decided to do the pill because of the healing, the physical healing process, and I knew that I was strong enough to handle the emotional healing. And I still do get emotional about it. That doesn't mean that I'm not in the process of healing. That just means, you know, that the trauma is still there and it is in the process, right? But I knew that I could handle it. I just didn't want the physical recovery to take longer than I wanted it to. So, and also I sought recommendations from other doctors in my family circle. My aunt is a doctor, and she was able to give me some more advice based on her colleague, which is a gynecologist in the Dominican Republic, and they both recommended the pill. With due time, it is effective, and it's much easier for the physical healing process. So I did that, and boy, can I tell you, that is extremely painful. That I've never felt a pain like that in my life. It was physically just like horrifying. Thankfully, my husband took the day off, and he was there with me through the process. And of course, you know, I just rejected all kinds of medication, so I had to go through it pretty much raw. It was really bad, but it lasted a few hours, and after it was done, the next part was the emotional healing. And that took me a while. So this happened in May, at the end of May, mid to end of May. So now we're in August. It's been months, and so I'm still recovering, still healing. It has not been easy, and I know I post a lot of fun things and positive things and everything, but I did want to share this because so many women go through this. 10% of women go through miscarriages, and no one talks about it. While I was going through my process and I spoke to my friends about it, I found out that so many of the people in my life have gone through it, and they don't talk about it. I had no idea that one of my best friends had gone through it. I had no idea that people really, really close in my life had gone through it. And I'm like, wow, it is such a taboo. And so I really want to share my experience with you guys because so many people go through it, and I want you to know that you are not alone. Which is like the biggest thing that we go through. And I always knew that I was going to have a support system with my best friends and everyone, but it's like I cannot imagine going through that physically alone with no one. And so if you have gone through that, my heart goes out to you because it is extremely traumatizing. Sorry. Like, I had the support of my parents, of course my husband, who was such an angel with me, my best friends who would listen to me cry over the phone for hours. I love you guys so much. And I think the most important part for me was that support system, that I needed it and I had it. And then I also, like, I cried about it, like I'm crying now, but like I cried about it, but then I would have this sense of hope, this overwhelming sense of hope that my support system would constantly feed me. And I don't think I could have gone through this alone. And so when I found out about a couple of other of my friends, I used my energy, the little energy that I had, to give them some encouragement and to tell them that I'm with you, I love you, I support you. And you know, even though we can't physically be together, which is probably the hardest part of this whole thing, I want to hug you. So I'm going to give you a virtual hug. So I'm here today to give you guys a virtual hug. And to let you know that you are not alone. If you have gone through this, or know someone who's gone through this, or you have, you know, any words that you would like to share, feel free to do so in the comments section. I want to connect with you. You know, this is me being real. And yeah, I thank you guys so much for creating this space. This is a safe space, okay? I just want you to know that you know, when you're talking to me, you're in a safe space. So I want to say I love you. I want to say thank you. Thank you for your support. And this story is to be continued. All right, so I'll see you guys next time.